Welcome everybody, and this is a private conversation within the private jurisdiction of Pantera de Oro, private society, but at the same time, all are welcome in the public to listen and to participate with us. I have the great pleasure to have two beautiful ladies to join me today, this afternoon. Today is, according to somebody's calculation, April 9th, 2019, or April 10th, because you two are on the other side of the planet, or on the other side of the plate. I don't know, flat, round, we're not sure yet. But anyways, I have with me Jingki and Karen. And so that's Jingki on my right and Karen on the left with the lavender shawl, and the green kind of plaid shawl is Jingki. So welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you. This is all courtesy and with the assistance of our friend Leon Joseph and his director, Odie, is the director in place. Can she say hello to the crowd?
It's Odie. She's just gone inside. So mum's whisked her away for a moment. Leon, Dad's gone to retrieve her back again.
Okay, well, Leon, we want to see Odie.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at our main bosses here. The ones who inherit the planet.
All right, here's our boss. Hi, Odie. Hi, Odie. Hi. Yeah, she's happy. Hi, Odie. You taking care of mom and dad and Karen and Jingki?
Yeah. Yeah, doing everything perfectly.
Yeah, she's pretty perfect.
That said I.
And Dad?
She's off to her car appointment.
Okay. All righty. So,
main operator.
So getting down to things, you two, I believe, recently linked with Leon. Is that correct? Through mutual friends or crossing paths, and you were introduced to who and what Pantera is and what we're building, and my background in law and history and related things. And so Leon has related some of that to you, and so you wanted to have a conversation, and I wish to know about you and your work and what you're doing with the land and working with the original people and all those issues. So no agenda, no preset script. So why don't we just start and have the two of you introduce yourselves, give us a little background, and tell us about yourselves.
Beautiful. So I am, I'm Jingki Watersford. The name is Carrie Ann Cox, and I'm from West Australia, Western Australia, Broome, Northwest, which is known as Warrivul, and I come from the Ngumbal people and a 9-clan cycle of the Nyunyan language, and that's where I came from with my people. I've been linking in with the 13 grandmothers, skin law and songline across this country within the last 10 years. Also have been working in my human rights capacity as the previous chair of my community to bring systemic change and I think a better way, and also to end bad behavior and practice, you know, and we learn to become amazing and better human beings. So I've also traveled in my capacity as a singer-songwriter and around the world in the country, and worked on occasions with the Australian Government Corporation with the High Commission to South Africa and many places abroad for the service to humanity and that. And now we found our way to walking the way in which we need to. I've met up with Max Egan in trust law. I've had a look at the common law aspects, and we as 13 grandmothers have corresponded in federal mail, registered post to the Queen, Her Majesty, to His Holiness the Pope, and to the Prime Minister, the CEO of this country, jurisdiction of one that was filed in 2010, which led to the intent to occupy, failure to rebut jurisdiction of one will lead us to occupy. Then you will notice the trespass notice as to the international CABIT injunction blanket claim over our lands. Just claiming and keeping that stand strong, you know, but also allowing respectful, honorable due process to those main key people that we honorably would like to serve good notice on behalf of the grandmothers on our star skin laws, and to the Pope on our mortuary laws of creation and our genealogy and DNA. So our jurisdiction is that is standing at, you know, currently since 2012. So, you know, it's really, and we've been at the songline, and so I'm driven by spirit the same way as you, and, you know, coming from the east with New Beginning, and then going back to the northwest, and then connecting with Karen, whose birthright is the southwest of Perth, and her, you know, through that calling of our ancestors, we started on the journey in February to connect with the key people that we needed to, leaving Broome to come to down south here. Of course, we knew Leon's family, and my mother's been here with Karen 3 years ago to the Wadandi Center. So linking up with the key people, but also delivering, you know, a vision and a shared vision, and just our ideas and thoughts around how we start to come together, Kujara, and that, and the south is where new dreams are, you know, as the east is where new beginnings are, and the north is where our ancestors lay, and the west is where the wisdom keepers are. So it's good to sit with you, Ken. We call it Kalarabaru, and we're known as Kalarabaru in the west ground of the northwest as well. And here we are with Liam, the beautiful South Dream, with that beautiful baby, Odie, the Dreamtime baby, and then, you know, and it's amazing, you know, because we trust, and we trust in all that is, and here we are with trust law, and you know, setting up the trust again, and it's exciting to see, you know, the you know, what we've kind of come across, and that, you know, we're not having to reinvent the wheel. We're all holding all these beautiful keys, you know, master keys, and it's like, wow, excellent. Here we are, and here's Pantora, and I love Pan. I love the you know, everything about Pan. Like, yes, because I wasn't sure how it was spelled, but then when I saw Pantera, I went, okay, I know who you are, Pan. I know who you are, Pan. All right, on the old level. So what we're going to do to get here, right? So, you know, the hunter and gatherer has connected to the ancient self now. So that's been the beautiful journey of myself, you know, moving from, you know, very tribal bush wilderness background, but also linking up with the ancient part of who we are too. That is, you know, our forgotten origins through Steve Strong and all those modern East Coast. But it's great to connect and grab, you know, the connections of our ancients. So that's a little bit of myself.
Okay,
Jingki.
very good. Very good. And Karen, how about you?
How exciting. I think I should have gone first.
No, you're right. It's not great.
As a follow-up.
Yeah.
My name is Karen Campbell, and people say, where are you from? And I say Western Australia, because I just feel such a beautiful connection throughout the whole of the state here. And I'm just really rediscovering about their origins of why and where and how. And when I've looked on this journey, we've just taken this songline journey since the beginning of February. And when I think and I look and I introduce beautiful Jingki to these parts here, I look at the footprint that myself and my family have had and through the state, and I can claim WA is home, and there isn't too much of the place that I haven't had a physical imprint and walked country with beautiful, amazing people that have given me just this blessed right of way. And it started with a dream, Ken. I had a dream 28 years ago as a white suburban living, hardworking. I've always come from a hardworking stock. Beryl and Ted are my parents. My father an English and from Liverpool, and come out on a boat when he was 18, I think, or 19, after he'd been a paratrooper in the Second World War, and dropped into Normandy as a paratrooper with the Services Division. My mum was a woman born in Jardee country from a family of 9, and she lost her mum when mum was 3, never had a parent to bring her up in that regard, brought up by the family. So we have a very large footprint. Dad came over, and mum and dad had 6 kids, and so I'm the baby of 6. And we grew up in the Pemberton, Northcliffe, and Doncaster National Park coastline at Windy Harbour. And so all the way from Windy Harbour up to Broome, yeah,
yeah, land of road, sand dunes. Yeah.
For those of us who don't know Australian geography, where's Windy Harbour? Is that down south, or is it
very, very, very southeastern point of Western Australia? And where I've just driven and sung the song line from all the way up the top of the Kimberley. So we're Kimberley, and we drive all the way through the Pilbara, then through the Midwest regions of the Gascoyne, Midwest, and then through to the Southwest. And so where I grew up was the southeastern point. But where our family, we're 34 years or something, Kimberley. So our direct kind of connections are very much north and south. And so our coming together as families and the connection was just a beautiful natural melding of north and south, and obviously a very beautiful chocolate colour and quite a white light. Pommy,
nice symbolic.
well, you know, I'm learning about the histories there. So I've had a lot of experience with people, and I'm an aged woman now, a very proud mother of 4 amazing young children who are not so young anymore, and they're beautiful partners. We're about to have a wedding with my daughter in 17 days. My beautiful daughter Shanae gets married, so that's the purpose why we're here. Got gorgeous family, very much support, and they've given me a lot of grace and freedom to be able to take a walk of faith with the divine, and just to be able to come out of a period of trauma to have a wonderful walk forward. So that's what we've done. And here I am. My name's Wongadi, White Crow. I'm learning language. I get to back Jingki up sometimes. My history is in training and assessment, tourism, hospitality, retail, people management, natural environments, natural resource management, Department of Parks and Wildlife. Love country, love and the grannies. The grannies have called me in for a big vision. I had the dream, and now I have the grannies that were part of the dream that come to me, and I can hold them, they hold me, they sing me, and I get into places all the time. I'm the blessed,
Good.
I'm very lucky woman.
So, Karen, did you have any background in any of the issues in terms of law or jurisdiction or genealogy or DNA or claims of the land or any of those things that we're about to talk about?
I'm unaware of any claim at this point. What I have is a beautiful offering of a treaty. So I've treated in with family all along, all the way through the state. So I have jurisdiction.
Yeah, so that's part of it. And
I'm working my way out of the system. And 20 years ago, Ken, I was I went to a 10-day conference in Borneo on exiting the system. Did so, had it overseas set up, and the guy that set it all up for us as we were about to commence got popped in the head back there 20 years ago. So everything fell. So I've been on a search for 20 years to find the right way to do this correctly and properly, but haven't had the answers. So here, Leon, Jingki, I've been an active and proactive seeker and somebody wanting to be exited the system. So now I live it.
Well, now you're in the deep and in a good way, as we've moved out of our
We've been
comfort
holding it
zone.
flat.
And so I've been a
Thank
free
you.
traveler for 5 years. So Karen's been traveling with me in that capacity. So, and she's really strong. I was very impressed with the way that she holds her energy and peace, and she knows, I think she knows who she is in her creation as the, you know, as the sovereign in your divine and natural that you are. And so I was really impressed, you know, with our little trial run before we went traveling with our vessel. And yeah, so that really showed me that, you know, this was a really good compatible energy between us that we could hold, because I'd never want to bring anyone that couldn't hold themselves, you know. This is, you know, when you're ready, come. If you can hold your vibration, you can hold your light frequency in a peaceful way, and you know who you are, you can disarm those energies, and we can travel that way, and set those precedents. And I realized that spirit and the energies would come and give her that test. And so the police, you know, we met the peace officers in Nanyatera. So that was kind of maybe 3 days in our travel. And yeah, so that came through, and I just said, yeah, well, you're being tested now, so this is really good time of your testing. And it was really beautiful. And she goes, what do I do? I said, nothing, just wait. We only respond to what is now going to be presented.
What now? Turn on the video.
Yeah. So it was really, 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 just really good. And, you know, I think from that moment, you know what you create in the next moment. So that's been just consistent, and just really beautiful the way that we've continue to travel into the CBD center and through the cities of Perth, and to be able to sing up that vibrational song line of who we are in essence to country, and you know, role modeling that and sharing that. And I think that's why I started that journey, so I could be a shining light and I could embody what it is to be free and to be in your free sovereign essence again. And as highly spiritual beings and ancient people, of the great dreaming of creation from when we came from the blue central sun, you know, when you find out the truth, it's all over for us. It's kind of like, see you, Mom. We gotta go now. And if you want to come with us, come with us. But we're going a different way, and it brings me back, because Max always told me about trust law, and Biggie Bay, the million-hectare land lease, was created and set up by our old people under the trust, you know, to protect it. So that's always been a very strong point, and it was always there in the beginning. And I'm just picking up a legacy, you know, that needs to be put into form in this world. And I want to work with my friends and my family like you and Leon and Karen, and it's about us going back to the human race and our tribal. Our human tribe, and our League of Nations, and who we are within our international treaties. And I already see our value and our intent here with you, Ken. And I also honor and respect and hold up that treaty that was set forth by our people within the League of Nations, that brought on the United Nations, that brought on the peace treaties after the Second World War, and why we went to war in the first place, lest we forget. So here we are, and in our human evolution, as we talk about Wanjina, you know, the great, you know.
Well, let me ask you a few specific questions to lay a little bit more foundation. I'm sure a lot of our members in Pantera, and if we post this on a public channel, many people have very little understanding or background in terms of the real history of your people and the native original people of Australia that were called Aboriginals, and that is really a derogatory term, and another attempt to turn things upside down, inside out. So I would like for you to give us a very brief but concise summary of what is the real history of Australia in terms of your people. How is it set up in, you referred to 9 tribes, 13 grandmothers. How is Australia set up from your point of view and your people in a governing relationship with the land and spirit and the living creation that is part of the land. And where is that today? Maybe that tag is too much. Just let's ask the first part first. Yeah, we'll get to that later, but lay the foundation for us first.
Definitely, we had a really amazing system. We built actually beautiful huts. So we did have a sustainable living situation. We traveled a lot. We bartered and trade with a lot of the different 600 clans, or maybe 800 clans, but there's maybe 600, 500 in the nation now. And so there's been trading laws that have existed for a long time. There has been marriaging ceremonies from our east lines to our west lines with the bloodlines and connection. We've traded with the Tamils and Muslims and all that. We've connected in with the Vikings in earlier times. We had Egypt come and visit us many times, but that's a lot of our ancient stuff too, with a lot of our temples and old things. And so I'm just talking, if we're talking about 200 years, or if we're talking about 60,000 years, and then if we're talking about a greater time of Gondwanaland, of how we were part of the heart center and how we were all connected, and talk about Atlantean time and Lemurian times, they're also our linking points. There was another name that we were known as then, so it's part of our migration.
So do you have a oral tradition that goes back 60,000 years to Atlantean, Lemurian, and there's a direct...
I visit our old temples, so from our hunters and gathering, and know how we work in this 6 seasons. So we don't have 4 seasons, we have 6 season cycle. We work with the land and the sea. The land tells us what's available in the sea. We work in with the sun and the stars alignment. So we've been traveling on boat and working the seas for a very long time in that capacity. So we're governed by star laws, and certain stars have a certain ceremonial point. So a lot of us would meet at certain grounds, whether you'd have to travel maybe 2-3 weeks just to get to the other side of the country, to do these ceremonies. And there were ceremonies that continued to keep the balance, of Earth and universe together in that capacity, and that sharing system, and connecting with the way we had our governance structure. And same when when colonialism did come in, there was an act of peace and treaty first, most before, a lot of our freedom fighters and our main warriors, tried their best to stand to protect their estates and their places of the old people, of our grandparents and that. So, so here we are with a lot of the massacres in the Southwest, where we had a lot of the great warriors who stood up there, and Pumaway and Sydney, and and Jandamara from up our way. So it was, these were, and we had very very organized what do you call it, border securities, on that. And if we had to call on certain clan by clan, then there was, they didn't think that we'd need extra forces here when they were coming in through here. So they didn't call on the greater clans to come in, just because of not having so much information. But we've got Zoom chat now and Skype. I can, our smoke signals are really quicker these days. So we're like ancient culture in modern time.
Yeah.
So that's where we are, and we're doing really good with our evolution. The same with your old people, that came into the Americas.
Yeah.
From the old land.
So how would you describe where the people are at today in relationship to the Australian government, and reasserting or reestablishing your rightful position in relationship to the land and self-governance and things like that?
Well, I can say that it's been a really big walk, and it's been a great legacy, but I think we're in a really beautiful time now, when we've gone through, from the Aboriginal protection, and, and flora and fauna, to, you know, to human beings, and, you know, we are theropopulous, and, you know, to be considered, you know, an equal, you know, footing within the society of Australia, and then with the foreign establishments and ideologies that, and beliefs that came with that. We had to know, we had to become them, you know, and we had to learn their way, and so we could come and resolve right now, and through the land rights and then the native title process, and being hoodwinked with your, you know, your native rights determination to, you know, when you're signing, you're surrendering your rights, and, you know, and us being proper, I suppose, informed and educated and wise, because that was the old people. Education, education, education. You're gonna have to learn this way. You're gonna have to know how they think. You're gonna know how they operate. We have to become them. We have to go in right inside of them, and then we have to blossom from inside of them, and we have to take it through. You know, the only way is through it. You know, so I have all those bloods in me, and I said, aren't you lucky? It's like, look at me, I'm you. This is what you made me become. And look at it, this beautiful life, because peace be with you. And this beautiful divine house, that was a beautiful part of our old people lives. Once we can move through this, then we can bring everyone forth. And this is why I call the Union of Men. The Commonwealth of Australia was formed by the Union of Men. I call on the Union of Men to come and sit now. So this is the part of the, let's start the dialogue, like we're having with you now, and under that faith of the common sense, of the common unity, of the common vision, of the common end results, outcomes that we want. This is what we're talking about. Here's the clean page. Here's a place where we can be safe, where we can heal, where we can grow together, where we can not be frightened of each other because we dare to come and sit in each other's lounge room and realize that we're all the same, and we hurt the same, and we've gone through the same pain, body, pathetic suffering, you know, all that stuff in the greatness of who we are, and as eternal essence and as divine spark. This is one story of many stories, and we can let the past go to rest, and it's time for a clean page, and it's time for a clean canvas, and it's time for a sweet song. And we don't talk, we sing. Hey, you want what kind of, you guys go to what kind? Not too good, eh? You know. So as we're singing as hum beings, you know, we're humming, and we're sounded beings, Your Honor. With all due respect, we shall be ourselves, and we shall assert what needs to now be full remedy. You know, so from the commercial lien, we wind you up. Let's declare that old way, the old system. Let's bring our energy systems back in, and let's form true remedy. So, you know, as I've healed through this journey and I've become conscious in who I am in my mob here, but also who I am in the human tribe, and who I am in creation itself and the universe, one forms remedy of peace now to come and sit with all the family of Mother Earth, you know. And
so in terms of dealing with the corporation known as Australia,
yeah.
Are you and your people that you represent, or all the people, the clans in Australia, attempting to, like you say, educate, go into the system, but are you attempting to perfect your rights and standing within the corporate system, or to define a clean, complete separation to reclaim the lands that belong to you that have not been already overlaid to such an extent that it'd be impossible to take them, but there's a lot of land, I'm sure, still that you can claim. So are you trying to work together in that respect, or are you moving towards reclaiming and establishing your own sovereign standing as a unity of people, not individual sovereignty, but as a collective? Is that?
Well, that's where we're heading, and it's a collective vision. There'll be a unity of people, and from our original people and all the families who come from the greater Mother Earth, that'll be the next stepping point of how we engage together. But we're setting an example already of our strong standing on country, not through the land councils or through the the direction of the Australian government corporation. We, as in our own rights and knowing who we are, has empowered us, because that's been the devastating effect of colonization is uprooting and your disconnection from your stories, who you are, and your power center, and knowing who you are is really important. So my family and I have gone on this journey to know who we are, to work out who the greater clans are, to start that process of to stop the infighting and just to bring peace and calmness back, and to start that healing. And the strong standing. We have strong standing. We are sitting in country. We've stopped the LNG gas plant from coming. We've already given notice to the KLC, the Kimberley Land Council, that they do not work as administrative body for us. They do not speak on behalf of our lands. This is a private matter. We are a private state. And all those who wish to come in terms of the corporations and the agents and agencies affected, have to get permission and invitation to come on our lands.
Yeah.
So that we are setting that tone and that standing, that's already starting to inspire the rest of the mob now to set that direction. And I've also linked up with Southwest North Center, with main key grandmothers, to work with their clan groups and set those key leadership directions within the role modeling. And so I've been doing this now for over 20 years to be able to move around and sit with everyone, just sit and connect. And now I'm back at home, and now that I've got the ground to work on, and that's just only one little area. I said, hey, you want to come and do business in country, then here we are. We're introducing ourselves. Broomshire, here we are, but you're being put on notice, but all we want to do is form remedy in the way we need to start doing business, and how we move forward together, and how we wake you up and conscious you back into what needs to happen. It's commercial lien, time to pay the rent, it's just an exercise, it's just a point, so once we start to educate and share on that level, they get concerned, they stay in the silent box. I've spoken to my best friend, a good friend, Richard Aspinall, in the Prime Minister's office in Perth, so I pretty much just told him, look, this is where the journey is from when we started on the ground. Richard, you've been promoted through this process. You sit there, and this is pretty much our findings now. And what I had called from the Prime Minister's office on the ground to the people, this is what you've done, but this is where we need to take it now. And within the Human Directorate, we'll fill that Human Directorate, and, and we will take over those responsibilities again, and we'll move it in the way that we need to, because we have jurisdiction, we know what our rights are, and we know how to exercise those rights and pull on the greater nation of people in this country. So that's been the building blocks, and that's where we're at the moment. So it's going to be in a really amazing time when we get home, because I've been looking at some of your structures in that, and what I know also of what the trust has been there before. So we have a foundation, private foundation, that we're working under, where we're able to deliver the human service and our voluntary service, and to work for the better good. And so we're just moving through that now slowly, and our strong standing in countries very set, and Lois is also strong standing in country there. We've had the strong standing education with the Shire, with the Land Council, all that, and she's standing strong in country. So this is how we learn to support each other, to stand, because we have a claim. None has been rebutted. We'll do this exercise, but as we continue to grow strong, we just continue to inspire the rest of the mobs to just accelerate, and they're waking up, and it's great. It's exciting,
Good. You have referenced 2 or 3 times the phrase commercial lien. What have you done in that context, and what are you doing with that? Where does that fit into what you've done and or are doing now?
Well, the commercial lien is just an exercise of winding down a corporation structure, the same way that I winded down Biddy Bay Corporation Inc. to protect the greater lands from getting mined, to take away their legal body and wind it down. I'll wind it down.
But did you create a commercial lien through some sort of process, and then
yes,
and then apply that to a lien debtor perfected lien with a debtor against a corporation, a government, individuals, or what did you do?
Corporation, the Australian Government Corporation, registered in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So
yeah.
we followed those processes, but this is where
And
I think where we're at is how to affect it now. I haven't rushed into it in the
Okay.
way that needs to be wind down. It's just a winding down exercise to be able, because it's not really about this. It's about the banks at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, let me ask pointed, specific, short question and answer, because I'm going to lead you into getting some clarity for myself what you've done, where you're at with that. Then I'm going to lead us into my giving you some context and detail. You've mentioned working with trust, claim of the land, standing, different things that are keywords and phrases. And as you probably know, I understand them very well. But I want to lead you in a direction where I can give you some input and recontextualize some of these things. It's very important, and you'll understand when we're done talking of the what and the why. So you mentioned you did a process. Where did you get that process, and can you succinctly describe just the basic steps of what you did to create a commercial lien?
Well, the process that we took to get to the point of the commercial lien was to serve the first official jurisdiction of want notice to the main key players, which I shared with you, the jurisdiction of want. And then we went through the paperwork of intent to occupy to those main key players, being the Prime Minister, the Queen, and the Pope, as well as the ATO, Taxation Department Office. Then we went into, we exercised the paperwork to notice of trespass, and then we filed we put a blanket claim in the International Common Court of Justice over all our land sunrise. So they've never been butted; they've all been filed and claimed. And this is worked in also with the Maori people as well of New Zealand. So worked in with Queen Turikatugu. So she holds quite a lot of that, and linking in with the Sacred Circle of Life. So quite a lot of the linking original mobs from around the world, grandmothers and stuff. So where we are with the commercial lien is, like I said, we have not exercised, or I have not stepped forward, because I've been following this process very slowly and carefully, and being, and also being able to link with the right people like yourself, to be able to be given the direction, to get the clarity, to know how to move through and navigate safely through it and have that result.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to go to the next level with that, precisely that, how to navigate successfully and safely.
Beautiful.
So I'll give you a very brief summary of my background. I originally, in my early 20s, started in business in the gemstone and jewelry and related businesses, traveled the world extensively, going to Africa, Asia, South America, Mexico, in that business and or adjunct to that business. So I've been traveling since I was like 6, 7 years old. My family went to Mexico, so I've always been very internationally oriented. And then the gem and jewelry business is very much of an international business. So that laid a foundation for me to think as a very natural way of my being on a global scale. And then approximately 30 years ago, I started taking little baby steps into the arena of law. I started studying the U.S. tax code, the IRS, and that moved me within a few years. That was 1989, 1991, and starting in 93, my wife and I started going to Hawaii, and by March of '94, we moved to Hawaii. And at that point, I pretty much was all in or fully engaged with studying law, studying history, and beginning to study the monetary system, banking, and all of that. And so my journey of the last 25 to 28 years has been building my knowledge base, but more importantly, an integrated picture and understanding of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, it's extremely complex, and it is extremely baited in terms of the phrase bait and switch. And so I've come through the layers of all the things that you've mentioned: commerce, commercial liens, dealing with government or private corporations in terms of all of what people largely consider fraud, or the things that have been done to take advantage of the people of the world and take control of all the monetary systems and all the assets and resources, all of that. And as might not come as a surprise to you, suffice it to say, it is very nuanced and very subtly layered in a way to create a feedback mechanism, so that people who think they've learned a lot and know a lot about how the system works, unfortunately have, in almost all cases, been blinded to how the system truly works, and how when you think you have standing, you're in a private status, and you're over here doing certain things that you think are solutions, they're actually creating more of the problem. And since a lot of this law movement at the people level, at the grassroots level, started in the United States, I've come up through 3 decades of that movement. And when I started, the people I studied with were what I would consider the grandfathers and a few grandmothers, but mostly men, who had studied in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and started writing books. And they studied with other people, very few and far between. But really the 70s and 80s laid the foundation for what I started in the early 90s. And even all of those extraordinarily advanced minds and thinkers and pioneers in it, virtually all of them went to jail and prison, even though they knew or thought they knew what they were doing. And some of the people that I studied with in the 90s, when commerce and commercial processes were really almost virtually the entire focus, they were absolutely brilliant. The complexity of the law and the codes and the statutes and the Uniform Commercial Code is extremely complex. And it took leading edge, brilliant minds to start cracking those codes. And they did. But unfortunately, they were wrong. Unfortunately for them, because they all went to prison. And as I started coming through those layers, every single time, every layer I would go into, and I would perfect my knowledge and understanding and integrate it, there was always something that was out of place. It was kind of like the metaphor I've used in the past is, if you take a built car and you take it apart down to every single part, and you spread it over a big garage floor, and then you put it back together and you build the whole thing, and then the whole thing's in place. You got all the frame and everything in place, but there's like 100 parts that you didn't put in. And it's like, well, they were there when I tore it down, but now they're not there when I rebuilt it. Why aren't those parts there so that they fit? Why am I going to just say, as most people did in the law form, well, they don't matter because, see, I have a fully built car. You can see it's completely integrated in its whole. Yeah, but there's all those parts that didn't fit in. You didn't put them in the right place. Well, it doesn't matter. And that's the kind of thing that I encountered. Don't worry about that. Okay, well, I did worry about it or think about it because I have a certain innate quality in my way that I think and look at things, which is very synergistic, integrative, and whole system perception, perceptibility, and so forth. And I'm acutely aware of the parts that don't fit or are being shunted aside and being excused.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never satisfied, even though I would go into something and say, yes, I really get it. And I would do commercial processes. I did many commercial liens, but I did them way more advanced and more integrated than almost everybody I knew, including the people I learned from. And I did what is called in commerce a secured party process. Perhaps you've heard of that, where you become a so-called secured party against the debtor, and the debtor is your, the all capital letter, birth certificate, name, and so forth. I did a complete process 4 times, from 1999, the first one, till about 2010 or 11, the last one. And every time, I got better, I got more advanced, I understood it more. In the meantime, for 20 plus years, I traveled the world and studied banking and money mechanics and got into layers and levels that very few people have gotten into. And I was integrating the whole picture. But there was always a little niggling voice in the back of my head saying, it doesn't all fit. There's still parts on the floor, and there are still people telling you, ignore those. It's kind of like, ignore the man behind the curtain. You got Oz telling you, oh, I'm great and I'm all powerful, but there's this, little old man behind the curtain. Ignore him. Well, I don't like ignoring everything. I have a nature that's very precise and very diligent in making sure every piece fits. And after almost 25 years of doing all of that, starting between 5 and 8 years ago, I started getting the proper thread of how it truly, really did all fit together, including the esoteric side, which I've studied since I was like 4 years old. Because as I'm sure you know, the masters of the matrix, they are hardwired in the esoterica, and they use that as components of mind control and energetics and geomancy and all those things that most people ignore. And because I came up from an early age in that world, the metaphysical world, the mystical, and then when my wife and I met 27 years ago, she had come up from that same kind of genre. We had an advantage in being able to see both sides. But in the so-called spiritual communities, all their attitude was forget the physical and forget, we're going to ascend, we're just going to leave the physical, so why bother with it? And the physical people who are good at engineering or law or money or whatever, they say, well, screw the spiritual side, that's just woo-woo or airy-fairy, and we don't need that. Our approach was to integrate both, because there are both integrative parts of the whole. So all of that served me very well to crack the code, truly crack the code of how the world system works. And ultimately, about 6, 7, maybe even 8 years ago, but between 6 and 8 years ago, it became quite clear that the whole commercial area, including secured party processes, uniform commercial code, commercial liens, was an absolute bait and switch trap. And that's why everybody that I studied with 10, 20, 30 years ago all went to prison, because they didn't know that. And a lot of them were too egocentric or too greedy or too arrogant to allow themselves to see it any other way. And so the real key for me is that everything in commerce is a debtor-creditor relationship. And somebody said that to me about 8 years ago. And keep in mind that I had done process after process after process. I mean, I could do piles of paper up to the ceiling, 10 stacks of them, to just show you everything I had done. And then along comes somebody and says, for as long as you're in commerce, you're still stuck in a debtor-creditor relationship.
Right.
And on the spiritual metaphysical side, I had already been coming to understand the nature of the polarized polarity of control mechanisms on the planet, hardwired at every level of our being. And the two came together. Okay, well, if that's a polarity between debtor and creditor, and no matter how much you think you're the creditor, you're still attached to the debtor, which means you are stuck. And then on the other side, that everything is a polarity in the energetics and the multidimensionality and so forth, so that it became, obvious And at the same time, I had to look at all those stacks of paper I've been doing for 20 to 24 years and say, well, I guess I have to burn them all and throw them away. But I was willing to do that. I was willing to, every time I realized this doesn't work, there's a part or 10 parts or 100 parts still sitting on the garage floor that I didn't put in correctly, and I'm not going to ignore them because they're parts to the whole. So I finally started getting onto the real path, which is where we're at today and what we've built in the last 8 years, integrating everything that needs to be understood, both from the multidimensional and the esoteric to the nuts and bolts of law and money mechanics and legal systems and jurisdiction and all those things, trust, estates, land law, and all the rest of it. And so, and it's very kind of disheartening in many ways to see a lot of people who think they're doing the right thing, insisting that they've got the right piece, and going headlong into, you know, a wood chipper and just being chipped up and thrown into prison in many cases. So the bottom line with commerce is it's a trap. The bottom line is everything in the world system is under a martial military construction. Commerce in the creation of commercial paper, including commercial liens, whether done through the way they accept and allow or done outside of the box by doing administrative processes that, like what you're talking about, it's a bait and switch. Because commerce is a field of battle, and it's controlled by martial law, military law. And we are constructed as enemies of the state. And until we change that status, if we haven't changed that status completely, not partially, and I've heard you say a number of things in your dialogue in the beginning that indicated you have certain thoughts in your mind that I've done this and that gives me this status or standing, and I know you're not fully there. You know, it's of course not to undermine what you have done or make you wrong for it, because my role is to make sure everybody understands this precisely and has the exact tools to do it to the absolute perfected way that can never be rebutted and can never be undermined or used against us. Okay, so unless and until we've absolutely perfected our status and the standing that you reference, we are still attached to their playing field. And as such, in a lot of ways and a lot of times, they will allow somebody to do many things in many steps, basically leading them to slaughter, okay? And allowing somebody to set their own fate in terms of a legal evidentiary basis by which the system is just going to watch and wait and let you set the hook and the line and be ready to be reeled in and cooked for dinner. Okay, does that make sense? So, you know, we're not going to be able to cover all of that in one conversation. In fact, you know.
No, that's all good, Ken. And like I said, you know, like in status of ego, I don't have one. I don't really care.
No,
much.
and I understand that. I was definitely not speaking of you. I'm speaking of all the guys.
You know, that other stuff. And I've watched a few. I've looked at a few researches of people wanting, you know, to go through that commerce way, and you know, that's what I did. I put all that stuff behind me, you know, to go.
Yeah. So what I can very authoritatively say is that in the process that I have brought together, and we have a great team of hundreds of people now refining and bringing more precise and more expanded detail and methodologies and so forth. When your mind gets the whole picture, when anyone can see it without resistance, without going off and say, well, I know this and that doesn't fit, so you must be wrong there. You know, I ask people to set that aside and look at what we have accomplished. And when you can see it all, what you end up seeing is there's an absolute perfect remedy that is uncontestable, incontrovertible, and absolutely follows the law to every letter of the law within the public matrix system.
That's where we're at, Ken, with you.
Yeah.
It's full remedy now.
Yeah.
Because we're past that point, and that's the exciting part of linking in with you, and because we're attracting each other. That's the law of attraction.
Right, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
so
and,
what must form the basis of law must form full remedy now in peace.
right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's the exciting part of it now where we're at, you know.
Right. So what I think we'll probably end up doing is having this call maybe for, you know, we're into it about, I don't know, 75, 80 minutes now, and maybe we'll go another 20 minutes as general framing out the conversation and laying the foundation. And then come back together in a week or a couple of weeks, and then getting into more detail and specifics. And before we're done, I'm going to frame it out how I see it. And I think you'll appreciate it. I know you will. And then we'll come back. We'll come back next time. Pardon? I didn't hear that. What'd you say?
I said we're looking forward to it, and then I'm right. I can spend more time going fishing.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming over to do fishing too, so I love to.
You're invited
to come and fish.
Okay, and Leon's got the Barbie right behind Karen to fire it up for grilling.
We got the fire. We got the fire there, and the campsite, so we're right.
Okay, good. All right.
That's great, Ken.
Well, let me summarize, and then we'll talk about it a little bit, and then we'll end, and we'll come back to start filling in the details. But the bigger picture in summary is, as you know better probably than anybody, including me, because it's in your DNA, and it's in your cells of your body and in your being and so forth. The bottom line is the land and the co-relationship between the stewardship and the energetics of the human body and the human collective in terms of clans or tribes or so forth, and the co-resonance of that relationship with the land and with the planet. And so the entirety of the matrix and the law system and the historical colonial periods and everything, and it's all right there in the language, in the words, and historically going back to Latin and religion and all the rest of it. And it's all there to be seen. You know, what is colonialism preceded by the age of so-called age of exploration and conquest? It's all about what? One word: civilization. And in Latin, the word civitas, or the civil body, is a containment field to lift the people who are on the land off of the land and contain them. And to have them agree to that and consent to that voluntary status of jurisdiction by contract, by treaty, individual contract or collective treaty and all the rest of it. And yeah, it's all by bait and switch, and it's all by obfuscation and distortion. But technically speaking, it, at least from their energetic point of view, it's legal, it holds water. So we have to return to the land, and people have been saying it and singing songs, returning to the land since the 60s and all of that, but they don't know precisely how to do that. Okay. The way we do that is to change our status from being bonded as a surety to the collateralized debt of their debt monetized matrix, debt enslavement system, that even if you've done 99% of the things that many people do, if there's still a contractual link or nexus back to that system, they consider you are still in their jurisdiction. So all the things you're talking about reclaiming the land and establishing the people and the continental relationship with clans and grandmothers and so forth, they still look at you, well, you can do that, but you're still collaterally attached. You're jurisdictionally under our authority, and there's only so far we're going to let you go before we pull that rubber band, snap it, and you're going to come right back in, and we're going to address your transgression of doing things that are not allowed in our jurisdiction. Okay. And so we have to properly, precisely, and completely sever those attachments.
That's right.
And that's the work that we've been building. It is very complex, and right now a lot of people, most people can't really step up to it. But I know that what we're doing is we're blazing a trail. We're pioneering an energetic trail that is on the collective quantum scale, infusing into the cellular structure, cellular memory, and the consciousness of all the people who are real people, as opposed to matrix robots and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Who
But
know?
we can give them a seed of life, Ken. You know, even those who wish to return home can be given a seed of life from the mother tree, you know, and that is the part of which we want to share as part of the ancients.
Right. Yeah, of
You know,
course.
that
Yeah.
all, we call it majalbi, to return. That's
Yeah.
the word we use, majalbi, to return.
Right. And see, there's a symbiosis or a synergetic relationship with the wisdom and the knowledge that you innately have as people of the land that most people who are not of the land, including myself, genetically and so forth, we need to be guided and educated with the wisdom of the land and the wisdom of the real people. And we need to share with you and guide you in terms of, like what you said, your parents or grandparents said, educate, educate, educate. You have to go into that system, learn what it is, learn who the colonialists and the white invaders are, et cetera, because if we don't know and see people everywhere in Hawaii and North America, South America, they've all been doing that for 1 to 3 or 4 generations because they realized they had to do it. But there's a certain disconnect that is so foreign to your way of being that's not foreign to my way of being. I can go into the matrix and learn it and grok it to the level that I have. And because I do not want to be of the matrix, I did that as my path to infuse my consciousness to the core level of it so that I could come back out and use that knowledge and wisdom to assist you and your people and all the people of the land to use in a very simple fashion the mechanisms to sever those attachments, reestablish your private standing and jurisdiction, reestablish formal and proper self-governance principles and organization that they cannot refute. You know, and it doesn't have to be, well, we'll do a parliament or 3 houses or, you know, Democrats and Republicans and presidents and you know, no, that's all, they're bullshit. The form that it's built on is extremely simple. And it's very much in alignment with the wisdom of the land and the wisdom of the people and the keepers of the knowledge that you embody. And so there's a synergy that we're coming together. And that's why when Leon told me about you and said that you wanted to meet and gave me a little context, and because, see, I've been seeing how there's very key and specific things in Australia and your people, if I could say it that way, people of the land, and what we're going to bring together. And I know that our shared destiny was to have this conversation to link up so that we can infuse and complement and integrate the 2 forms of wisdom so that we can consolidate and solidify it, that it would be and will be impenetrable, unassailable, incontestable, and absolutely pure in its original grounding and intent to reclaim and hold the land and re-embody ourselves on the planet.
That's right. And one thing I wanted to share, there is no word for white, fellow white man. There is a word we call garia. And Garia is the ghost of our ancestors. Rudy small. They look like us, but we can't feel them. Where is spirit gone? So that's what we say. From the Gemstone University meets the Bush University of Life. And that's what my mother and our old people's vision was, to open up the Bush University of Life so all our families and friends like yourself can we could make those connections strong and open up the gateway, you know, for us to integrate and come into that spirit, that lian, that mana, that spirit of what we feel, of what we like, what we love, what we want, in honoring the genetics of creation from the seven sisters Pleiades in our ascension from the blue central sun, and how we started to sing our country in the beginning of creation, and how we were all those formations and left those songs and DNAs and goes, thank you, tree. Here we are moving this way now. This is what I'm going to be next. And so, you know, so as one of the first grandmothers of creation and activating and waking up to that and connecting with all that, just being able to hold those creations and to have this mind clear, to be able to sing it up and hold it for this vision and our coming together and not get distracted or push that way, you know, keep singing and creating it up the same way that we did in the beginning, you know, as we always do.
Mm-hmm.
As atom, you know, we call them Walangari, is big law, it's circular, you know, what goes up must come down and must go up again. That's what the old people were saying was quantum physics. And the grandfather or the old man, he's known as the blue porpoise, and he said, at this time, we are no more Ngagala, we're not infant. We are to be Rangi Burus. We are to be lightning spirit, that's Rangi, and then Buru is earth ground. So heaven and earth must become one within us now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's strong as we become Rangi Buru, earth ground, negative, positive come on, earth it, lights turn on, connected to creation and who we are in our supreme.
Very good.
Yeah, and that's all right, because, you know, it's this beautiful thing, especially when you process and you go on your medicine journey and you really experience the process of death, you know, that's when you lose those concepts, ideas of death, the formation, the new forming, a form into matter, no matter anymore when you're not a form, but being able to go through those process of going through what death really is, and expanding into, hey, I'll see you in the stars again, all right, Ken? Sure. You know, to then, all right, then I'll come down, you know, it's you move past the fear of death and being killed, or, you know, you're untouchable in that sense because you know who you are. And that's the beautiful part, is what my grandmothers and my grandfathers would, well, when you become a grandfather, you become an old mother. And and they say, you know, Juwanila, you know, Ngai Widamangan, you remember, you know, my little flower, you know, you remember, you know, when I go, Ngai Nila Gamani, Ngai Nila Nyamo, I remember, I know, Majalbi, I'm here, Mijalana, I'm here, Mijalana Mabu, I'm here, live, living, breathing. This is who I am, living tree, living doctrine. Yeah. In that, just that, you know, that live thing again, and singing it up through the old vibrations of the language of the land now, and activating our dialects and the language of the different areas of which the country gives us, you know, and being able to sing that and sing the song of together now, of what was left there, which has been remembered and picked up, so we can sing it into being.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Spirit walk.
Well, the other thing that I want to share is, you know, in our travels over the last 27 years, Andrea and I together, and my travels years before then, and hers as well. And like I said, going to most areas of the planet. We lived in Hawaii for 2 years and really connected with the Hawaiian sovereignty movement, and that was in the mid-90s. And of course there was like 300 groups, and they were all fighting each other. We are the true ones, and we did it. I'm Kamehameha's lineage, so am I, but I am too, and pretty much everybody is. And you know, and going through those layers of what they were dealing with, and right now we have we're building a very strong relationship with Sierra Leone, which I went to 11 years ago, and doing some very significant, we're already literally on the president's desk right now. We've written letters of intent and MOUs, and the president and the cabinet are going to review it and confirm and issue formal invitations to us in the next week or so. So, you know, we're linking up. Pantera is linking up and really is the integrative web or network to link up everybody on the planet. We're going to do it through the education, through the media, through an entirely new monetary system that does not have those bonded recourse attachments to the debt and the enslavement. Suffice it to say, I would just say very bluntly and directly, I know exactly how to build a blueprint of a new monetary system, and we have all that we need to do that. So linking up with the people of the land in Sierra Leone and other places of Africa and Australia and Hawaii and Canada, South Africa and Namibia and all these places. And we're in partnership with a group here in North America called Turtle Island Government in the Anishinaabe. And the Anishinaabe define that word as those who from on high came down, and is considered a global government of all the disenfranchised peoples and bands and tribes and so forth. And one day, very soon, that phrase, I'm disenfranchised, is going to be music to many people's ears. You know, people, you know, 100 years ago, 50, 80 years ago, that was like anathema. People say, oh, you're disenfranchised. Oh, that's terrible. Now the new phrasing is, you're not disenfranchised yet? Yeah. Okay.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? So there's literally like 4 to 5 billion people on the planet who exist in tribal communities and so forth, or small bands who are considered disenfranchised. And so what we're going to do is build a integrated network where all of them become, you know, activated as disenfranchised and become the new true franchise, for lack of a better term. And, you know, suffice it to say, we have the detail, we have the mechanism, how we can do it in the most important key places in the law and the money system, and creating the new aspects by always honoring the existing system, not going into controversy, not going into polarity, not going into battle with them. Because when you go into battle, by the way the system is set up and the nature of those types of beings, they already win. You know, so we remove ourselves from the field of battle. We're going to peace, standing as peace, and they cannot even hold a candle to that or to us when we're standing like that. And so,
now, yeah, that's it. Finished now. Gotta finish. And yeah, it's a good thing to be able to be a part of the great exodus now. You know.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. So that's what our role is as Pantera, is that integrative backbone with our soon to be launched, building a global media system and global education, a global platform for interactive private enterprise and sharing wealth and value, and building basically a new world system. So we're right there. We have all the pieces. There's nothing that can stop us from doing it now.
That's right. I heard, I got a message saying that heaven was happening now, so it's beautiful, and it'd be great. So thank you for the introduction, and we'll catch up again, like you said. And furthermore on, when we catch up again, we will try and link up. I'll try and link up for some of our main ones, you know, that are linking in. So as we expand, you can then meet some of the greater communities of our members, you know, from around the country, and we can, hey, look here, because I've kind of just shared a little bit, and I've sent a message to some of the key ones in the country who influencing and the direction for their people. So I just got them to have a look at Pantera, and have a look at some of your YouTube, so they can just start that, to get that, to you know, just check your energy and connect in with your spirit and all that. And Granny as well from Uluru, you know, and say, oh, here, look at Ken here, Granny, what you reckon? Nice fella, this one. Oh yeah, good one. You know, so just to get a feel, so we can start, and then, you know, eventually what I see as a beautiful vision is you know, we can also then link up to have a shared swimming session with you, you know.
Great. Sounds good.
So with the greater things, like, give it to us, okay, Grandpa? Come on, Nyamo, the blue porpoise.
All right. Well, let's bring Sophie and Leon onto the camera. And Odie once again to wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ken.
Amazing.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Howdy, howdy. How we going?
Hi, Leon.
Right.
Yeah, and here's the new
This is what
puppy.
we've had to
Oh,
deal
and the
with.
new puppy. Yeah.
That's why we're constantly just smiling.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so unfortunately, Soph and Odie at a chiropractor's appointment at the moment, so they should be due back in the next half an hour. So I don't know if we'll be able to hang around. Wait
Well,
for them.
no, we're going to close off this one, but maybe I'll ring you back in about 45 minutes so I can say hi to Sophie and see Odie.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And, I'll hook up with Jingki and Karen, and we'll get them a membership and get all that started. Hey.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Be in
Okay,
touch.
awesome.
You know where to find me.
Yep. Awesome. Hey,
All
I
right.
can.
All
See you,
right.
mate.
See you. Thanks.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
See you, bud.